It's been one of Australia's most baffling missing child mysteries. And on the eve of the 10-year anniversary of William Tyrrell's disappearance, we take a look at where the search for the little 3-year-old boy in the Spider-Man suit lies now.
Hello and welcome to Media Watch. I'm Janine Perrott. It's a case that's embarrassed New South Wales Police for years, and last week the media were marking the 10-year anniversary of William Tyrrell's disappearance with a series of news specials.
A little boy lost. Michael Usher's exclusive interview with the women who have never given up on William.
We need answers. Australia needs answers.
Plus, Chris Reason speaks with the former lead investigator.
That being Gary Jubelin, the ex-cop who was stood down from the case after illegally recording a suspect and who was using the 10th anniversary of William Tyrrell's disappearance to call for an inquiry. And he was the go-to voice on the mystery case on 10, as well as 7 and 9, who both claimed an exclusive with the former detective. With reporter Gabrielle Boyle returning to the scene of William's disappearance from his foster grandmother's house and telling us,
if he was alive today, he would be 13 years old. No longer that little boy in the Spider-Man suit who loves colouring in, but instead a teenager attending high school on the cusp of adulthood.
And if, for some reason, you wanted to know what William would look like now, if he was alive, well, bizarrely, 10 News made it happen.
We've reached out to world-leading forensic medical artists in the United States to put a face to William now.
With 10 showing us a glimpse of what William may have looked like at age 8, but then pulling the cheap trick for the grand reveal.
Tomorrow, 10 News First will exclusively reveal 10 years on a teenage William. He would have been heading into year 8 or 9 at high school and would look quite different now with the onset of puberty.
With 10 News adamant it was all for a good cause.
It may trigger something in someone to unlock this mystery.
But only if you bothered to watch 10 News the next night. Or as one viewer said after 10 posted its story to YouTube,
doing a face reveal on a missing kid to get people to tune in is some truly shocking stuff.
And 2GB's Ben Fordham was in agreement.
I'm sorry, but that is just crass. And that was the reaction in other newsrooms last night when that went to air. Whoever is running the newsroom should think long and hard about their way they're covering a very sensitive story.
So did 10 stick with its pledge to reveal all the following night? Of course they did. Teasing its blurred mock-up of William at the top of its 5 o'clock bulletin. 20 minutes later, the suspense was over.
And now we can reveal exclusively 10 years on. This is what 13-year-old William would look like today. A young teen tackling years 7 or 8 at high school.
We asked 10 if it was guilty of exploiting the Tyrrell story for ratings, but it ignored the question, instead telling Media Watch,
our primary concern, like everyone, has always been in finding out what happened to William.
Which is a ridiculous claim given how 10 News teased its so-called exclusive image over 2 nights. Now to Adelaide and this alarming front-page story in the Saturday Advertiser.
Overdose of care.
Exclusive.
More ODs in nursing homes than jails.
And there was more inside, warning of a drug overdose dilemma gripping aged care. And after trawling through emergency services scanner data, the reporter claimed,
since August 20, paramedics were called out to 3 drug overdoses in South Australian nursing homes, as well as 3 in retirement villages, twice as many overdoses than in jails.
That's 1 every 3 days, with the paper saying the overdoses were linked to pain medication and heavy opioids such as OxyContin. And to truly frighten readers, the paper then named and shamed.
The incidents occurred at the privately operated nursing homes, Benet Aged Care St Agnes, Calvary Aged Care Kingswood and Helping Hand North Adelaide.
So were any of those organisations defending themselves in the story? And most importantly, was the story accurate? No and no, because the next day came this almighty U-turn.
Correction. A story in the Advertiser yesterday reported drug overdoses occurring at Helping Hand Nursing Home, North Adelaide, and Benet Aged Care St Agnes. This information was incorrect. The Advertiser apologises.
But that wasn't the end of it, because it turns out the paper also got the details wrong about an incident at the Calvary aged care home, with the paper admitting it did not involve an opioid or pain relief medication. And for good measure, the paper then apologised for yet another mistake after it smeared a different nursing home in this picture alongside a massive bottle of OxyContin, with the paper conceding
there is no suggestion of any overdoses at the Brighton aged care facility,
making the headline, the image and the overdose claims wrong, wrong and wrong. So what happened? It turns out the first mistake was to base the story on emergency services scanner data. That is, reporters watching how police, fire and ambulances categorise emergencies in the system and guessing what the crisis may be, with SA Ambulance Service telling us
Our coding system uses broad clinical categories that may not reflect the final outcome of a case or the treatment required.
which is exactly what happened here, with the State Ambulance Service confirming that one of the emergency call-outs reported as a drug overdose was actually for a patient who had swallowed a coin. The second mistake was not confirming the suspected drug overdoses with each nursing home. And while attempts were made, they were simply not good enough, with Helping Hand Aged Care telling Media Watch
the Advertiser sent an email to a generic information email address at Helping Hand, which is not regularly monitored, prior to the story being published.
And it was the same story from Bene, who said it was distraught at the false report. So it's no surprise that all the nursing homes damned by the story contacted the Advertiser. By Thursday, the paper removed the article entirely, with Michael White from the South Australian Network of Drug and Alcohol Services telling Media Watch
Articles like these are often more about raising the public's fears about drug use and creating moral panic than seeking to either provide information or propose improvements to the system.
As far as editorial disasters go, it was an overdose of inaccuracy. And my question is, who, if anyone, is checking this stuff before it's published? Sadly, we don't know, because the Advertiser's editor didn't respond to our questions. Now over to the US and last week's presidential showdown in Philadelphia, which will be best remembered for this bizarre outburst.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
That was former President Trump making the extraordinary claim that Haitian migrants in the Ohio town of Springfield are stealing and eating people's pets, forcing a live fact check from the debate moderator, David Muir.
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
That exchange became the hot take of the debate and was instantly ridiculed by late-night hosts.
If there's one thing we know about a racist conspiracy theory, it's that Donald Trump's brain will swallow it whole like a hungry immigrant at Petco.
Even Republicans were calling out Trump's baseless claim, with Karl Rove, who was a senior advisor to George W. Bush, calling it
probably Team Trump's lowest moment.
So where did it come from, and what on earth was Trump referring to when he said he'd seen it on TV? Well, it's a good chance it was based on this.
They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them.
That's Anthony Harris, a Springfield resident, airing his grievances about Haitian migrants at a local government meeting 3 weeks ago. And his claims about Haitians behaving badly was a hit on X, garnering more than 9 million views. Also feeding the online frenzy was this photo of a man holding a goose, viewed over 12 million times. Except that was not in Springfield. The bird had not been stolen, it had been hit by a car. While another popular online video is this recent police body cam vision of an Ohio woman arrested for allegedly eating a cat. But if Trump thought that was in Springfield, he's wrong. It's in a town almost 300 kilometres away. And the woman in the video is not Haitian, but US-born, and is now facing animal cruelty charges. And the one last piece of this ugly puzzle is from a Springfield Facebook group where a local resident claimed a neighbour's daughter's friend had lost her cat.
One day she came home from work, looked towards a neighbour's house where Haitians live, and saw her cat hanging from a branch, and they were carving it up to eat.
The woman behind that post has now apologised and admits it was based on rumour. So in summary, Donald Trump's dramatic claim...
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
...appears to be a cocktail of hearsay, scuttlebutt and racist resentment over Haitian migrants, all aided and abetted by Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, who, when confronted on NBC over the debunked claims, simply doubled down.
I hear you saying that they're baseless, but I'm not repeating them because I invented them out of thin air. I'm repeating them because my constituents are saying these things are happening.
So it's left the town of Springfield dealing with the ugly fallout, which includes bomb threats, 2 hospitals put into lockdown and local schools evacuated. The real-world consequences of fake news amplified on the world stage. And finally, another one bites the dust.
Nine farewells Sneesby after $3 billion share slide.
Nine CEO Mike Sneesby is the 3rd network chief to rush for the exit this year after Seven's James Warburton and the ABC's David Anderson. And as the ABC was reporting, the Nine boss is leaving a mess as he goes.
Mike Sneesby's tenure as CEO has been marred by a sinking share price, job cuts and serious allegations against former executives.
And rivals relish turning the spotlight on Nine, with The Australian running this front page story last Friday.
Mic drop!
Nine's rotten culture scandal tortures CEO.
A none too subtle reference to Mike Sneesby's brazen Olympic torch run in Paris, leading to this awkward exchange when a Seven reporter tracked him down to his luxury Paris hotel.
Should you have carried the torch yesterday? Is it inappropriate you're staying in a boutique hotel when you've just sacked staff?
Meanwhile, back home, Nine newspaper journalists were staging a 5-day strike over pay and conditions. But Tone Deaf and Sneesby seem to go hand in hand. In June, just hours after announcing up to 200 jobs would be cut at Nine, prompting a vote of no confidence from union staff, he went on holiday to Greece. So no wonder his resignation email last week conceded,
"This year has been one of the most challenging in my career, one where our resilience has been tested."
Challenging is one word for it. Unexpected, it was not. The embattled CEO survived a move to oust him in May when he was backed by former chairman Peter Costello. But only a month later, it was Costello himself who was forced out after an unseemly tussle with the Australian's paparazzo, Liam Mendes, at Canberra Airport.
Well, you've got to answer the questions, Mr. Costello. Don't. You've just assaulted me.
Costello stood down as chair 3 days later, while Mike Sneesby leaves at the end of the month. Media analysts weren't sorry.
Whether he jumped or whether he was pushed, it's a great move for Nine.
It's certainly good timing, given the release of Nine's, quote, forensic investigation into workplace culture has been pushed back until the end of October after being inundated with staff complaints. Which brings us to the catalyst for that inquiry, one Darren Wick, the hard-drinking former head of Nine's newsroom, who was making front-page news in May after News Corp revealed multiple claims of groping and harassment.
Nine's wicked ways.
Nine staff open up on newsroom cockroach.
With 3AW's Tom Elliott saying he'd spoken to several of the women involved.
None of them want to go public. They all fear that Nine will want to take revenge on them, and it's a small industry in which we work, and if you upset a big employer like Nine, it can be terrible for your career.
For his part, former Nine boss Darren Wick has not spoken publicly about the claims against him, and he staged stum last week after a familiar paparazzo tracked him down to a supermarket car park.
Mr. Wick, my name's Liam Mendes. I'm a journalist from The Australian. What have you got to say to the women who've made allegations against you? Groping, sexual harassment and manipulation. You don't have anything to say at all?
In May, Nine announced a full external workplace review, but as often happens when you open these things, the initial sexual harassment claims widened into bullying allegations, including against some female managers. Meanwhile, television staff are anxiously awaiting a second round of cutbacks after at least 85 jobs were lost in the publishing division. With under investigation, that's the show, not the inquiry, already axed along with its veteran EP, but host Liz Hayes will stay, but not expected to return to 60 Minutes. With one Nine journalist, who didn't want to be named, telling Media Watch,
"The mood is dire. No one knows who will survive."
Nor are they confident of cultural change.
if those at the top who enabled WIC aren't held accountable.
So we'll wait and see. As someone who worked at Nine for more than a decade, I think I speak on behalf of most who hope that the Ninosaurs, as I dub them, will soon become extinct. Finally. And that's all from us tonight. Don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. You can read the statement from 10 on our website. But for now, until next week, goodbye.